Paolo Gualtieri, I've said this to some of you. How many of you, fess up, you're under oath, how many of you watch The Sopranos? Not too, okay. One of Tony's toughest capos is the guy with the white sidewalls, Paolo Gualtieri. The good Monsignor is Monsignor Paul Gualtieri. I don't know what okay. Just some cosmic coincidence there. But at the end of the meeting, and it's all in Italian, and sorry for the preening, but not the peacocking. He says, and I know Rome a little bit, and so when they're saying nice things, watch for the however. So he says, well, you know, you've got some interesting ideas how to do it and all that. And I said, ma, but? And he said, no, non c'è ma. No, there's no but. And he said, why don't you present these ideas to your own archdiocese? And I refrained from snorting or laughing and going into my full diplomatic mode, which means be ready to lie instantaneously, convincingly. I said, well, a dire la verità, to tell the truth, I may have been slightly antagonistic towards the archdiocese. So perhaps they're not receptive to my initiatives. Whereupon the Monsignor smiled and said, well, you must be persistent, like the Canaanite woman in the Gospel of St. Matthew. And I'm not a Bible thumper, but I happen to know that when my wife pointed it out to me. And the Canaanite woman is the one who's making a pest of herself, and the disciples are saying to Jesus, just throw her out. And she says, no, she's persistent, cut her break. So Gualtieri said, just follow the example of Canaanite woman. And I said, Monsignor, I'll follow your advice, even if it means that I've got to cross-dress. So, for my next event, who knows? Now, to conclude on a slightly more serious note, if in Boston we had had at this phase of things the kind of energy and focus that you guys have, we would have been miles ahead. But we're the poor schmucks that were kind of the guinea pigs, and we had to improvise. And tell you one thing, one of our longest running vigils at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in East Boston, the last rosary, the pastor is sweeping down, there's this retired longshoreman, wonderful guy, Danny Filippone, who hated the pastor for good reason. And Danny's sitting there, and the pastor says, come on, time to go. And I said, no, I want to stay here and collect my thoughts. And the pastor said, what are you going to do, spend the night here? And Danny's a stubborn SOB, and he looked and said, yeah, that's a good idea. So he stayed and worked up through the neighborhood. He slept on the bench. The next morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, as he's walking out, 5 ladies from the neighborhood are walking into the church with coffee and donuts. That's how much planning went into that vigil. Now, you are where you are. I'm not the person to tell you how to go forward. I sure as hell know how I hope you're going to go forward. Because, and now I'll stop being a little bit too colorful, you're dealing with one of the most extreme personalities among American bishops. I mean, the stories are just out there in Boston. But we were able to face him down to a degree. And there is something of a bully quality to him. He stays within his own cocoon. He can't step beyond it. But for those of you, even 3 or 4, who stand out in the rain on a Wednesday afternoon with a sign and so forth, he hates that. He absolutely hates that. It's like a famous true story, Nixon in the White House and the anti-war protests, and he's looking outside, and there's this vigil and these quiet people with candles, and he calls in Bob Haldeman, his chief of staff, and he says, get them out of there. Haldeman says, they got a parade permit, can't do it. And this is in Haldeman's diary, it's convicted felon. And Nixon, I mean, he's just special. Thinks about it for a moment and says, all right, call the army. Get them to send over a helicopter and hover real low. And that will blow out their bleeping cannons. Now, that's documented historically, okay? Anything, now what are they doing in Camden? they're stalking Bishop Galante. Anytime he goes to an event anywhere in the diocese in a very orderly way, across the street there's a group with a sign. What about this? What about that? What about my parish? Lenin will hate this kind of stuff. You're not sure what you're going to do next. So I'm not here to say, well, vote for this, vote for that. You will work this through this process. I will conclude with something which is a true story. After 78, which was the year of 3 popes, John Paul the Great is installed. He has to go back and visit his beloved Poland. And the goons in Warsaw said, oh, well, you know, that's the bowling night of our prime minister. We can't do that, or what have you. So anyway, they keep delaying the Vatican. So finally, Pope Wojtyła sends a Russian-speaking Monsignor, this is a true story, to the Kremlin. What's the point of talking to the dummies? Go talk to the ventriloquist. And the Monsignor goes to the Kremlin. I mean, this is 79, the years of Brezhnev. And it's not clear who he talked to. It was probably Suslov, who was the keeper of ideology. Really, the Joseph Ratzinger, before Ratzinger became Pope. It's funny how the Vatican and the Soviet Union mirror each other as hierarchies. But anyway, he goes in. He said, well, you know, here, you know, we think the Pope should visit. And he said, well, that's not our business. Oh, no, 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 that's something for Warsaw to decide. We, the Soviet Union, would never tell our brothers in Czechoslovakia or Hungary or Poland what they should be doing. Whereupon the Monsignor said something like, well, I understand, no problem. But what's likely to happen is someday a black Mercedes is going to come into the main square of Krakow, and out of it will come a strong figure, athletic, dressed in white, and you will lose complete control of the situation. Whereupon the Kremlin guy thinks, no, golly gee, we'll get back to you. So the Pope's visit is arranged for June of 79, which is 30 years almost to the day. And I had a friend in the press who was there. The regime did everything to sabotage and to nullify the Pope's visit. No public statements, a little thing in the newspaper on page 18, what have you. The way the Globe covers the Archdiocese these days. But anyway, the word of mouth functions. This guy said that the regime said 75,000 people were there. The organizers said it was 1 million people. There's probably 300,000 or 400,000 people. And the Pope begins, and it's on a platform in Mass, but then he approaches the mic for the homily. And that is the moment of truth. My friend said, if you've ever been among a few 100,000 people, and every person is holding their breath, it's eerie as you look around. You can hear the insects buzzing and the birds chirping. And the Pope began with 3 words in Polish from the Gospel of St. Matthew's. And he said, be not afraid. Now, as you folks think in the weeks and months to come, what you should do, break down the walls that have separated you from your brothers and sisters. Look into yourselves. It's never too late to do the right thing. For many of us, with the exception of a private audience that I had as a young Navy officer with Pope John the 23rd, the last few years have been the most meaningful in my life as a Catholic. And above all, be not afraid. Thank you. We have time for questions? Sir.
What can we do when a pastor exhibits no help in fighting for his church, but we, the parishioners, want to fight, and he rebukes us at every turn?
Okay, those are two different. If the pastor is neutral, you're in good shape. If